We're going to start this video with just some general osteology terms. And so the first terms on our list, and this is from the osteology handout, just going down that general terms list. So obviously we've got a long bone here. This is a tibia, so this is the lower leg. And what we've got going on here is a bone that's been cut in half. So here you can kind of see it's been cut straight down the middle of the bone. So you can see the inside of it. So what we've got going on here is two different types of bone. So if you look closely here, you should be able to see that right here we've got some very, very dense bone, whereas in the end the bone is more loosely organized. There's little pieces, almost making it look kind of like a sponge. So this type of bone that we have that looks like the sponge, that's the looser organized, is called cancellous bone. Whereas the bone that's very, very dense along the shaft of the bone, that is called cortical bone. Now you'll also notice that we have this big hole in the center of the bone here. That whole area is called the marrow cavity, and that's going to be where bone marrow hangs out and where your white blood cells are formed. So right here we've got our cancellous bone, the cortical bone, and the marrow cavity. Now I'm going to switch bones really quick to a different long bone. So this here is a humerus, and what we've got is this bone being in two pieces. So we have the shaft of the bone right here. That's the area that we call the diaphysis of the bone. And then the end here, this is called the epiphysis. So the end of the bone and the shaft of the bone have two different names, and in children they're two separate pieces. However, in adults, these two pieces fuse together, and this little groove that you see here completely fills in, and it becomes one solid bone, so that you cannot see the separation. However, the end is still called the epiphysis, and the shaft is still called the diaphysis. Continuing with our general terms, a couple of terms on the skull. This right here is, of course, a skull. Okay, we've got our face. Now, you have see there are several different bones here, and they're hooked together by these jagged lines. The jagged lines that hook skull bones together, so this is our frontal bone, these are our parietal. You'll learn all the terms of the bones in a different video, but the line that holds them together, where they kind of lock together, that's called a suture line. Now, in a child, these bones aren't locked together yet. They're just sitting next to one another. And between them is cartilage. So when we look at an infant skull, so here we have a fetus or an infant, and you'll see that the bones just kind of smoothly touch one another. You don't see those jagged lines. And where multiple of them come together, we've got this cartilaginous area that we call a fontanelle. Now you may have heard of that as a soft spot, but the correct term for that is a fontanelle. Now these are the general terms of the skull and the bones in general. The next video will go into some directions, and then you'll see videos naming all of the different skull bones and the bones of the rest of the body.